You can't attract what you criticize. The reason being is criticism, what you're thinking, if it's critical thoughts of yourself or about a situation, it creates a negative environment, a negative frequency, where we feel as though we can't do anything because the thoughts that we're thinking are critical. Criticism of ourselves and of others is actually very destructive. Criticism actually has a tendency to create mental huge problems. The National Institute of Health tells us that our negative thoughts actually will create depression and anxiety. Even constructive criticism, which I am a big proponent of, but you have to do it in the right way. Constructive criticism really should be a way to make positive statements toward people. Whether you are a leader in a corporation, whether you're in Toastmasters, you always want to present people with their own strengths and the positive aspect instead of criticizing. Pritchett, who is the leader in corporations of change management, teaches us in one of his exposés, it's a small book called Hard Optimism. He teaches us that our negative thoughts have to be controlled. And controlled, he means when we start going down that rabbit hole in our minds, because who else do we talk to the most during the day? Ourselves. Catch yourself when you are thinking negative thoughts about a challenge, an adversity, something that might seem traumatic. Think of 3 things that you can do, you can think about, that will turn the situation around. Maybe it won't turn around immediately, but it's just like a cruise ship. It takes 7 miles to turn a cruise ship. When you're thinking about a challenge or an adversity in your life, remember that it's temporary. That's the other thing he wants us to think about. He wants us to retrain our thinking, and this takes practice. It won't happen overnight, but retrain your thinking to tap down the negative. He claims that thinking positive is actually old-fashioned because we actually have to train ourselves, again, to think about our past successes, think about our strengths when we meet adversity, we meet challenges. In order to change the negative, his steps are make room for the good in any adversity. When we begin to go down that rabbit hole, just stop and tell yourself, no, I'm not doing this. Here are 3 things I know I can do with this situation. Sometimes it might be a therapist. Sometimes it might be talking to a friend. It can be something as simple as getting outdoors and going biking. I'm a huge bicyclist. When I feel adversity or a challenge, well, I bike all the time, but I get outside. The other thing he wants us to do is realize that the negative is temporary. If you sail or if you do some kind of, let's say, a marathon, the pain that you feel, the experience, it will end within hours with a marathon. If you're a sailor and you're going through storms, we know that we will get out of that storm. It's going to be a little tricky for a while, but there is going to be sunshine at the other side of this storm. His third point is review your successes. When you are encroaching upon a challenge and adversity, something that can be a negative situation, look back on your successes and say, I got through that one and I'm going to get through this one because I have this, and this capability. The whole idea of you can't attract what you criticize. I have a great example in my own life. I owned 40 acres and 3 houses for 20 some odd years in New York. After one of the houses I renovated, it became a hoity-toity French-themed inn, and I was working full-time in the French wine industry already, so I had a crazy schedule. After 16 years of owning the beast, now I had Culinary Institute students, I had innkeepers. It was insane. I had no lifestyle left any longer. Tenants were a pain in the butt. I took the quantum leap and decided to leave. By the way, Pritchett also is famous for his teaching quantum leap strategies. I took the quantum leap and decided it was time for me to move, and to move to a warmer state because I'm a huge bicyclist. I swim, I sail. I did that. And because I was growing so angry at my lifestyle and at my property, I decided the only way I was going to change my attitude and my circumstances, because I was beginning to hate the property and I wanted to sell it. The only way I was going to change this mental thinking, this negative thinking, was to relocate. And that's what I did. It took 6 years to sell this beast. Let me think about it. It's 40 acres and 3 houses. However, what finally created this environment where it would sell was I changed my attitude. I began to actually love the property. Ironically, my neighbors literally right across the street bought the property. I'm out of debt of $857,000. It's a wonderful thing. So that's a perfect example of you can't attract what you criticize. Follow those 3 steps. When you find yourself facing challenges, make room for the good, realize the negative is temporary, and review your successes. Meditation and yoga are great examples of another way to overcome challenges and adversities. In the podcast details, I have information, I have links to 2 really great websites. One is Women's Meditation Network, which has free virtual classes, and they're focused on women. 2 of my favorite I have links on. One is Daily Affirmations. The other one is Nature Sounds, which I love. I'm an old hippie. I love the sound of nature when I'm meditating. So try that one. That's the first one, Women's Meditation Network. They are free. Katie gets into meditation practices that they're longer and they're commercial free, so that's fee-based. Kerry has her meditation website that's called Made in Meditation. She also has free meditation for children, which I love, but she also involves art projects. Some of them are fee-based, but both of these websites have free meditation. I strongly suggest, if you're finding yourself overwhelmed with challenges and adversities, start practicing meditation. Even if it's 1 or 2 minutes a day, it will get you in the practice of embracing this new lifestyle of meditation. Do it in the morning when you first get up. Do it in the evening when you go to bed. Either one of those. You can do meditation when you're sitting in your car waiting for crazy traffic lights to change. Lastly, wine. Many of us call January dry January because maybe we overindulged over the holidays. Me, being in the wine industry, wine and spirits industry for 26 years, I have been cognizant in the last 10, 15 years of drinking because I'm in my 60s. I would still like to look good and look young and be healthy. So the dry January practice, what you're seeing is prevalent. You can have something that I love, which are mocktails. I make my own at home, but you can go to nice restaurants, you can go to your nicer bars, and you can ask them for mocktails. And you feel very adult when you have this. They have no alcohol. One of my favorite that I make at home, a bit of a process because I love homemade cranberries. I love fresh cranberries. I make a relish with oranges and pears, cinnamon, and vanilla stick. But this lasts almost a month, and I'll mix it with ginger beer. There's only one ginger beer that I really like, and it has a large Q on it. I'll put that on my podcast. So while you're doing dry January, or you're thinking about dry January, either start drinking things that are low in alcohol or do your own mocktails. There are lots of good recipes online, and I'll include my recipe for the fresh cranberry and ginger beer. To wrap this up, you can't attract what you criticize. The way you're going to change this negative thinking, all this criticism about your environment, about your friends, about yourself, which is even more important, is to take those 3 steps. They're going to be in the podcast details. Again, it's make room for the good. So you tap down the negative, think about 3 things that are going to overcome this adversity. Realize the negative is temporary, and review your own successes. You have them. We all have them. Meditation is a quick way to also help you get past the negativity. So is Kundalini Yoga. And try the mocktails if you're doing dry January, or you've just decided to become sober curious, which is another trendy thing that's going on. All this good stuff is on my podcast details. I create this podcast once a week to help people improve their lives on a daily basis. Valerie Hale, Wealth Yoga Wine. Merci et au revoir.